Have you ever done something 2,000 days in a row? Something intentional, not habitual like smoking or running or looking up your ex on social media. No, something that requires quite a lot of conscious effort. 2,000 days, that's roughly 5.5 years. And through all of that, every single day, I've been using Duolingo. 2,000 lessons, that's 333 hours of learning. Take that, Malcolm Gladwell. Now, I know what you're thinking. Josh, you've got a lot of time on your hands. But I think I'm more surprised than proud of this seemingly random accomplishment. Because I kind of accidentally realized I was on this epic learning journey, the kind which represents all our collective L&D dreams of sustainment, space practice, AI, mobile, learning in the flow of work. How about learning in the flow of life? I was hanging out with Duo at breakfast with 10 minutes left to midnight in 3 different time zones over 2 days. Trust me, until you've gotten off a 15-hour flight absolutely exhausted and the first thing you're looking for is the Wi-Fi so you don't lose your streak, you've never really learned. Yet, somehow this damn adorable green owl has taken me through a journey of space and time like no one really has before. All with one at a time. You learn a lot about yourself when you try to learn something for 2,000 days straight. And as I come up on this rather unique milestone, my brain can't help but ask, why? What's going on here? What conditions needed to be in place for this to even happen? We talk a lot about learning journeys, and we certainly invest a lot into our world just to get people to learn. So allow me to take you on one particularly epic one, and the key ingredient required to make it work. Because if you were to ask me, what exactly made you do Duolingo for 2,000 days straight? It's because I wanted to. And boy, is that a complex nut to crack. Hi, I'm Josh. I'm an enterprise digital learning leader, and welcome to Series 2 of Digital Learning Done Right, a place for leaders to get the mindset, motivation, and meaningful action to go out there and live their best L&D life, whether that's in the weeds with their team or making the strategic decisions necessary to create impact at scale. If you're new here, you're in for a treat, but feel free to catch up on Series 1 if you haven't done so yet, just so you can take part in all the inside jokes. You ready? Let's do this. If you're not familiar with Duolingo, it's the world's largest free language learning app. You can learn everything from Spanish to Japanese to High Valerian. I guess that's one way to write angry letters to HBO. Duolingo gives you a mobile-first, novel approach to language learning. It's fun, it's approachable, it's highly inclusive, interactive, and probably the best application of AI in learning I've ever seen. Your kids are using it, their grandparents are using it. I'm pretty sure a really smart dog could use it. And a recent revelation to me was that this whole time, I've been helping translate the internet while using it. I know, it's bananas, but there's no time. Yes, Duolingo is a big deal. And if there's one takeaway you need from this episode, is that if you haven't tried it yet, go download it. Now, I thought this was going to be an episode on how great Duolingo is. It has all the pieces in place to make for a really compelling learning experience. But I realized with all the things working for that app, great content, bite-sized, super accessible, that's still not enough to keep a 2,000-day streak going. It's almost too rational a way to look at it. And learning is simply not a rational process. As someone who has spent most of their career trying to create these perfect conditions for the learner, the right content, the right environment, there's one piece I realized in doing a daily lesson for 5 years that was the most critical. It's me. Because you can throw any combination of carrots and sticks at the learner, maybe to get you to a 20-day streak or enough to beat Karen in accounting, but not 2,000 days. That's the true trick to Duolingo's success, is that it conquered the most critical part of any learning journey: motivation. And without motivation, the entire premise falls apart. Why aren't we talking enough about motivation? Why aren't we realizing it's the most critical component to actual learning? And if we're not focusing on that, aren't we just wasting everyone's time? You've probably heard of the two systems of the brain. Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow was a groundbreaking work to help us understand how incredibly irrational our seemingly rational systems of the brain are. You've probably also heard of Jonathan Haidt's work of The Rider and the Elephant, a really beautiful analogy about how the mind works. If you haven't, think of the brain as a human rider sitting atop an elephant. The rider represents the rational brain, the one that does all the planning and solving. But it's the elephant that represents the emotional side and is the driving power behind the entire thing. And well, if the two ever disagree, guess who wins out? You're not going anywhere the elephant doesn't want you to go. And that's what makes behavior change so hard, because you've constantly got to motivate the elephant. So we do a lot of things actually to try and motivate it. We try to distract the elephant from time to time. We tell it all the other elephants are doing it. We have an active story we're always trying to tell the elephant. By the way, if there are any elephants listening, I hope you take no offense or discrimination by speaking to your large and stubborn tendencies as Earth's largest land mammal. Babar, Dumbo, these are my friends. You are majestic, intelligent, and highly empathetic creatures. But yeah, the elephant is incredibly stubborn. Which brings us back to L&D. Of course, one of the most dangerous assumptions we make is the presumption of the motivated learner. Our learning platforms, content, libraries are all built on this presumption that people are ready and willing to learn at the flip of a switch. You can just go in, search whatever you want. We built it, they will come. And it all just sits on this idea that people are just motivated and ready to learn. But this is a world designed for the rider, not the elephant. We don't talk enough about motivation in L&D, even though so many things around us are actually trying to solve the motivation problem, but just really in reactionary ways. There's the stick. I can't motivate you? Well, then I'm just going to make you take this compliance thing. And there's the carrot. I need to motivate you. Do you like leaderboards? Come on, people love competition. Who doesn't love a leaderboard? We've got so many implicit mechanisms in place to dodge the motivation problem that we don't invest in the motivation problem. We actually pay to make it go away. And from everything I just told you about elephants, do we really think that's a great strategy? Coming back to Duolingo, this is where it has perfected the balance of giving you the right motivation at the right time in all its forms. To start, there's the intrinsic side. Duolingo has a pretty compelling value prop, which is the allure of language learning. And anyone who's truly invested in language learning does it for some deep-seated goals. Whether it's to engage with your colleagues better, the love of a culture, the love of a loved one. Because on an emotional level, I know the reward that comes from achieving these very real goals. And Duolingo offers hope that I can do it. And of course, anyone who's ever tried to learn a new language also knows that you don't go anywhere without continued practice. You can take a crash course on High Valerian, but unless you're actively using it at your live-action role-playing meetups, it goes away pretty soon. You just can't replace that kind of motivation. But that doesn't mean there's an unlimited amount of it either. This is where balance is so important when we're thinking about motivation. I mean, I know deep down I should call my mother more. Doesn't mean I do it often. By the way, Mom, if you're listening, yes, I'll call you this weekend. Yeah, I know I should be eating more. No, I don't know the last time I weighed. Mom, not right now. I'm podcasting. But yeah, the elephant gets tired easily. And the thing about learning 2,000 days in a row is that on some days, the elephant is very much in control. You're having a bad day. You're lazy. You prefer doom scrolling. You want to debate learning styles on LinkedIn because some people just like watching the world burn. Well, that's exactly where the role of extrinsic motivation kicks in. Because I'll be honest with you. You don't get to 2,000 days unless some part of you is actually interested in the streak itself. And that's the funny thing about motivation. It's not a constant, and its rationale varies. And that's okay. We need to tackle the motivation challenge on both sides at all times. Yes, ultimately what keeps my streak alive is my want to learn, But on days when that dwindles, there's external factors in Duolingo to trick me, distract me, at times even bully me to get me back on track. It's a harmonious balance. Lean too much on one, and the other falls apart. Motivation is a critical component of any learning journey. It's the learner showing up. And truly, that's really half the battle. Of course, it also helps that Duolingo is kinda awesome. It's sophisticated, simple, and really efficient. It understands the learning moment. And when motivation meets the moment of learning, this is the most precious of interactions, the most delicate of them. And Duolingo gets the experience right and is there to reward my motivation no matter what the source. That's the most important part of the motivation loop. Whether it's learning a new word or earning 5 more gems so I can buy Duo a new outfit, you still need to reward showing up. Because showing up motivated is really tough. Motivation, it's that elephant in the room that we need to wake up to. Because when you motivate people in the right way, and I mean really in the right way, everything else becomes a lot easier. We invest a lot into getting our experiences and environments right. But how much are we paying attention to how well we can just support people in showing up? When I'm motivated, I can tolerate a lot of things. But when I'm demotivated, my brain won't allow for much else. Motivation can be a lot of things, from how we engage our talent to how we reward them, retain them, to how we just get them to show up to the next thing. And yes, it's certainly bigger than L&D, and you're not going to be able to do this in isolation. But stop working so hard to work around motivation. Just meet it straight on. What did 2,000 days of Duolingo teach me? Is that it's really hard to actually show up every day and try to learn. It's exhausting. It's emotional. It requires a ton of brain effort. And what I love about Duolingo is that deep down there's just this semblance behind the app of, hey, I know this is tough, but keep going, okay? A recognition of what it means to be on a learning journey. And amidst our courses and workshops and platforms, it's easy to forget about the learner. We forget about the human side of what it means to actually learn. Solve the motivation problem, and you'll solve a lot of problems, whether you think you are or not. Because when high motivation meets effortless experiences, some powerful things can happen. So, what's the story you're going to tell the elephant? Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a lesson to do. That's all for today. If you like this episode, tell a friend. Go ahead. I'll wait. Tell him now. I actually don't have that kind of time, but promise me you will, okay? Want to continue the conversation? Come find me on LinkedIn or go to digitallearningdoneright.com to catch up on Series 1 and for a lot more. Next time, we're going to talk about Frodo Baggins, the best way to get a meeting invite declined, and forging a stronger connection between L&D and the business.